New at 11, Portland Mayor Kate Snyder is speaking out about the fight over a new homeless shelter in the city. A ballot measure is now before voters to determine the capacity of the facility in an attempt to block its construction. But as News Center Maine's Sean Stackhouse reports, Snyder says the current plan is the right solution.
You've seen the signs across Portland.
We have a persistent need for well over 200 beds for emergency beds.
A smaller shelter, scattered specialty shelter approach would be a much better solution.
For years, leaders in Portland have been working on a plan to replace the aging Oxford Street shelter, approving a new homeless services center in the city's Riverton neighborhood. Mayor Kate Snyder says it just makes sense.
What's appealing about the Riverside parcel is that it's city-owned.
Included in the city's plan would be space for on-site meals and a wide range of services like health and mental health care, substance use treatment, housing assistance, and employment assistance.
It's big. The services center would be set back from the street, and there would be the opportunity to build those wraparound services.
But those opposed to the project say 200 beds is too many, and the facility won't be able to provide adequate service.
The mega shelter at Oxford Street hasn't worked in the Bayside neighborhood. It's not going to work in any neighborhood.
Kim Cook is a volunteer with the group Smaller Shelters for Portland and a former city councilor. She's been part of the effort to reduce the number of beds and ultimately increase the number of shelters, hoping to give people experiencing homelessness more space, individual attention, in the hopes of better outcomes.
It really has to do with ensuring that we are meeting the needs of folks experiencing homelessness.
After receiving enough signatures, the number of beds for Portland's future shelters will now be on the ballot through a citizens referendum, and voters will be given three options. Option A, which was proposed by Smaller Shelters for Portland, calls for all new emergency shelters to be capped at 50 beds. Option B, proposed by the City Council, calls for 150 beds in space for a day shelter, while Option C, also endorsed by the City Council, would reject both other options, allowing the city's current plan for a shelter in Riverton to move forward as is.
That will leave the city's decision-making open to meeting the needs that we see in our community.
There is a viable path forward. We could build the 50-bed shelter out on Riverside Street along with permanent supportive housing.
Portlanders get to have the final say at the ballot box November 2nd. In Portland, Sean Stackhouse, News Center, Maine.
The city has already selected the group Developers Collaborative to develop the proposed center. The project received approval from the planning board back in September.